What we're going to do, we want to talk about obviously making smart buildings, but also more than that, we don't want to talk about just how you build the building. We want to talk about what you do with it, what you enable with it. If we have smarter buildings and smarter assets, then what can we do with security and monitoring and Wi-Fi and whatever it is, okay? We've got questions, I've got questions to ask the panelists. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves in a few minutes. But really we want to hear your questions for them. So if there are any questions, you'll get the opportunity in a few minutes. If there's no questions, I've got enough to fill the time, but we prefer to hear from you, okay? So with that, I'll run down the list here, and I am not going to pronounce your last name, Alex.
Don't try.
So we have Alex from Marriott International. Are you allowed to be in a Hilton?
I am allowed. Yeah,
okay.
I would have preferred if it was at the Marriott.
Okay. Yeah, we'll let you know. It's the Marriott here. Yeah. Next we have Larry Heisler from Anixter and Greg Watson from Zinwave. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. Take 3-4 minutes each, and tell us what they do, what their organization does. And the question I told them I'm going to ask them is, what do you see as the biggest potential benefit here for the user, the consumer, the customer, whoever, of enabling the smart buildings and smart assets? So what's the biggest benefit? Alex, you're up first.
Right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ajdelsztajn. I work for Marriott International for the last 13 years now. Hello? I have to press the button. Can you hear me now? Sorry, thank you. I work for Marriott International for the last 13 years. In my role, I drive strategic decisions for the voice portfolio for all of our hotels in the Americas. So everything coming from on-premise PBX systems supporting voice, PBX, push-to-talk, and obviously ending in cell coverage and how to enable cellular connections and reception and coverage and capacity for all of our properties. So it's becoming a real challenge, isn't it? Not just for me, but for everyone in this room. The expectations that we try to live up to is everyone wants service at any time, at any given moment, and it needs to enable them to complete all of their professional and personal relationships and tasks anywhere you are, whether you're inside buildings or outside. And our biggest challenge is how to enable you to be able to be productive when you're inside one of our venues. So this is really what is hot in the industry for a lot of people in this room, and we have to live up to that challenge and fulfill and deliver on that promise every time you come into one of our hotels. No differently than here, each and every one of you have your 2-3 devices that you go to all of the different venues, and you expect to be able to communicate using all of those at the same time. You have your iPhone, you have your iPad, your Android phones, and when it works, it's not because it just magically works, right? There's a lot of effort and a lot of exercises that were required to put that all in place. So really what we try to live up and deliver against.
Okay, great. Larry?
Good morning. My name is Larry Heisler. I am Director of Marketing for Building Technology Solutions at Anixter. And really what we're responsible for in the solutions group is our go-to-market strategy. My responsibilities include DAS and Wi-Fi, as well as other technologies, broadband wireless, professional AV, intelligent lighting, passive optical LAN. At Anixter, we're split into 3 different divisions. I'm part of the enterprise cabling and security group, so security is a big part of our portfolio that we'll be talking about today as well. Anixter's a company that many of you may not be truly familiar with. We are a Fortune 500 company, $7 billion in annual revenue. We're global with brick and mortar in over 50 countries. And a lot of good technical support as well as supply chain solutions to help minimize risk in deployments. Within the DAS space, we've been focused here for about 3 years, working with a number of integrators in the enterprise space. We're an enterprise distributor, One of the differences is we do work with end users quite a bit, but we do everything in full view of the carrier. We make sure that retransmission agreements are signed and that we're able to support our customers the right way by getting the carriers involved up front and throughout the process. So, a little bit about us. Thank you.
Okay, great. Greg?
Thank you, Ian. Well, hi there. My name is Greg Watson. I am a sales manager for Zinwave. Zinwave is a small company, but not new to the DAS space. We were founded in the UK in 2007. We were acquired earlier this year by a U.S. corporation. We're in the process of changing some of our products, and I've been hired to help certainly grow our business. So we're looking to create some partnerships with the right type of companies to certainly grow our business. And we build a product that is very unique in the space. The marketplace has changed, as my friend Alex had actually talked about. The types of devices, the types of services that people want to use keep changing. And I think that we know that that change will certainly keep happening. The product that we manufacture is actually wideband in nature. So it is a fiber-fed wideband DAS product that can support everything from 150 megahertz to 2.7 gigahertz. And so any technology inside of that frequency set is something we can actually deliver today.
Okay. So my first question is everybody talks about bandwidth going up, right? Consumers are using more and more. I have 2 teenagers. They can use more bandwidth than anybody I've ever seen. My son burns through 5 gigs in an evening watching 3 basketball games on 2 devices. He's pretty good at that. And he thinks it's normal to do that. This is a kind of a normal behavior for him. He doesn't, of course, he's not paying for it. But seriously, as an example, AT&T just upgraded my plan. So for an extra $30, we went from a 10 gig plan to a 30 gig plan. And we're actually trying an experiment right now in the house to see if we can use it all in 1 month. You have to try hard. But the point being that we are using more data. So from your perspective, from the in-building side, do you see the same increase? And I'll assume the answer is yes. And then secondly, do you see an upper cap on when this all starts to slow down? Or is the assumption going to be that this is just going to keep going and going and going? You want to start?
It is.
Okay.
It is, and we don't see when is it going to end. Wireless has really become the fourth utility, right? So having to talk about coverage and how is that going to end, and if we see a limit, the only difference is you don't see anybody taking longer showers year over year. You don't see you leaving the light on for longer periods of time. And we see the exact opposite when we're talking about bandwidth growth and different initiatives that are happening and bringing offloading of calls to Wi-Fi, and there's YouTube, and there's iPad, and who knows what's going to be the next big thing. But we don't see in any near future the bandwidth usage coming down from what this current consumption has been. Right. It has been grown to be an expectation from every guest where you, back in a not so distant past, you would come to hotels and see more technology in a hotel room than what you had at home. And now it's the other way around. It's flipped. You want to come to a hotel room and you want to see the same amount of data that you could consume when you're sitting at your living room. You want to see all the channels. You want to see all the information. And we're really trying to evolve our current systems and our current network to bring you all of that amount of different diverse services. And the bandwidth usage, we don't see it coming down anytime soon.
But do you track it per hotel, or?
We track it. We track it per hotel. We use our network standards. They're implemented across our 21 approved providers on bandwidth to really show what is it that we have per market. We have an incredible variance depending of where the property is, and it's not so much only based by size, but also by location and market. You could imagine that a small select service closer to Silicon Valley has an incredible amount of bandwidth usage when compared to another hotel in a different geographic location. And we do all the tracking, and we write our standards to provision for growth year over year. So we do ask for properties to revise their current available bandwidth and improve their services and acquire new bandwidth. every year if needed, based on projection and historical data for each individual hotel.
Right. Larry, still going up?
So, it's absolutely going up. Everybody in the enterprise space has a BYOD policy now. They're all implementing people bringing their own devices to use personal or work-related devices in the building today. And we're seeing more and more data going through there. That's why not only do you need a good DAS system in a building, you need the good Wi-Fi system in there to do some offload, so it's not all going through the carrier's traditional network. And some of the evolutions that are coming in Wi-Fi are certainly going to help that and help with some of those demands. But every time a new iPhone gets introduced, we all know this, we all live in this industry, you see demands for data going up. Think when the first iPhone came out, did you think you'd ever use a gigabit of data a month? Oh no, we're not going to have any need for that. You didn't see streaming video, YouTube, and being able to watch your TV on all your devices. And I think as more new devices, more new technology comes out, there's only going to be more and more demand in a macro environment, but also in the enterprise space to support really business applications, because people are running their businesses on mobile devices and expect and need to have that connectivity consistently.
Okay, Greg?
Yes, indeed. We will keep seeing the need for more bandwidth, more speed, and from a hardware perspective, we'll see some changes in the type of infrastructure that will be required to actually support that. So we will see changes in the actual types of modulation that are used to actually create that bandwidth. We'll see changes in the actual frequencies that are used. So we're going to need to have smarter systems, we'll need to have some building assets that are smarter that will be able to handle those changes going forward.
Okay. So it was a little bit of a rhetorical question, because I agree with you all. I was actually doing a little research yesterday for an article I was going to write, and the average HD movie, an average movie today, standard definition, is around 1.5 to 2 gigs, 1.3 gigs for a 2-hour movie. An HD movie is somewhere around 4.5, maybe 5 gigs. The new 4K HD movies, a 2-hour movie is 160 gig. So, are my kids going to want to watch it? Well, of course they are. Will they be able to tell the difference on their phone? Of course not. The screen's this big. Do they care? Absolutely not. So yeah, we've got a long way to go yet. There is an upper limit, but I don't think we're anywhere close to it yet. So, okay, so next question. Larry, you mentioned Wi-Fi, and I'll actually start with you on this question, but you also mentioned DAS. I'm going to mention Pico cells, indoor small cells. We've got, somebody else mentioned new versions of Wi-Fi coming. I think, Alex, you mentioned voice over Wi-Fi. We've got a lot of different in-building solutions here and a lot of things we could do. How do these all coexist? Is there a right fit for it? Are there rules to how you apply these things, or how does it all fit together?
You know what, today you need to find the best product for the application, and there's no one product that's going to work across all those different applications. Can you use an indoor smart cell, a super pico cell, if you will, to cover a building? You could, but would that be better to drive a DAS system where you can centralize your capacity and be able to move it around within your building? I think that certainly makes sense. I think there absolutely is room to coexist between the technologies, but that's really what the HETNet's all about, is how do you bring all these different technologies together in the right applications for the macro environment, for the in-building environment. And the key is you want to make the experience for the end user, for the hotel guest or the mobile device user, as seamless and easy as possible. We're not there yet, but as these technologies keep converging, we're getting better at where we use these. Certainly Wi-Fi in a building makes a lot of sense, but you know what? There's some outdoor Wi-Fi applications that make a lot of sense today as well, as you move to broadband applications. So it really depends on the age of the building, structures, all those kinds of things. And that's where, integrators like we're looking at here in the audience today, that's where you guys can help end users really define what's necessary, working with your carrier partners, obviously, to meet their needs, understand their requirements, and fulfill the need out there.
Okay, Greg?
Yeah, there are certainly, there are lots of options, I guess, and there are certainly lots of changes in the space, but there will continue to be the need, again, as I had talked about earlier, for newer services, newer technologies, and the DAS itself, if you choose to use a DAS type product to meet the need, is going to have to be able to evolve and change for those types of technology changes. So, yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
So, Alex, how do you decide, you've got all these properties, you've got a lot of options, you've got a lot of different size properties, how do you decide what to put in where?
Yeah, we work jointly with the carriers to determine, in regards to the size and the number of people in the venue and what area of the venue that we're looking at, what would be the best solution for each one. There are different types of funding options for each one of our properties and carriers and integrators, where sometimes they are more prone to one versus another in each one of the locations. But some of the concerns or potential issues that we've seen so far when deploying small cells are, one, we haven't seen a very wide deployment of multi-carrier or neutral host small cells in the market just yet. The other potential hurdle is some of them are not 4G enabled. So we want to make sure that we provision to what is it that our guests need. So if we're, and 99% of the times we're talking, there's going to be a lot of talk time and there's going to be a lot of data flow, right? We're seeing an increase in data year over year. And we want to ensure that we provision them accordingly, that if there's an availability for us to put all 4 carriers without having to distribute 4 different boxes on each one of the corners of a room like this, we would prefer it to be less intrusive to our property operations and to our guests that are moving within our buildings. DAS, outdoor DAS, small cells, pico cells, femto cells, all of those, there is definitely an opportunity for all of them to coexist within one facility.
Okay, great. Any questions? See out there. Jonathan Ajdelsztajn did tell me, by the way, before we came on, that he will pay $10 for the first question. You can pick up the money from him tomorrow. He's leaving tonight. So, all right. Think of some questions. The money's there. So let's shift a little bit away from technology and solutions and talk about applications. Let's start with an easy one: security. Right? I've stayed at hotels. I've been in buildings, and obviously we all read the press. So how does a smart building, smart asset enable a wireless type security solution? And Larry, I'll start with you again because I know that Anixter does a lot in this area. Absolutely. And then we'll go around and give Alex time to think about all the things he can tell us about the doing the security in Marriott's.
So yeah, absolutely. When you look at what you can do with security, there's one great application that we've really seen. And so when you have your video surveillance set up with the appropriate cameras and servers and the right software, you will be able to view those cameras remotely from an iOS device, an Android device, from your laptop. So think about a security guard when there may be some sort of an incident and they're not sure what's gone on, but they have to leave the control room, so they don't have that visibility to what's going on. Well, they can pull out their phone, and as long as the wireless signal is good enough, whether it's Wi-Fi or DAS, or cellular, I should say, they're going to be able to view what's going on. So think about peering around the corner when you don't know what's on the other side of that wall when you go around that corner. Well, now, with that handheld device, they can be looking ahead of them as they're walking to see what's taking place, what the incident is. It can be set up to work almost like a DVR where they can go back and say, hey, what happened here 5 minutes ago when there was that loud noise? And the ability to be able to do that anywhere within a building becomes very key as you move forward. So I think that's a really good application where wireless and video surveillance can work together quite nicely.
So this is the commercial or industrial view of the nanny cam, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
On a wider scale.
Sure,
Yeah.
but if you look at any enterprise today, you're going to have video surveillance in parking lots to see what happens. Oftentimes at any entry point they're going to have video surveillance. Even sometimes in some of the hallways, they're going to want to know what's going on so they can record what's happening. Especially if you're working in a high-value industry, they like to have a lot of video surveillance. But even in regular office buildings, we're seeing that more and more.
Right. So, in your estimation, then, when people are talking about enabling a building, wirelessly enable the building, where is security in the list of applications? Is it one of the main drivers? Is it number 5 on the list? Number 2?
You know, security by itself is a main driver. The issue is how do you get security to work with your wireless network the right way?
Okay.
And enabling your security, because every building has a security network of some sort. But enabling that security network to work over your wireless devices becomes key, and that's a matter of getting the right software and applications in place to support that. Right. But absolutely, those two coexist. Any building, just like you say, wireless is a utility, security, video surveillance is turning into a utility as well, being deployed throughout all the buildings. If you look in this building, there are plenty of cameras around and lots of video surveillance here as well. In any building you're in, you're going to be covered right now.
Okay. So, Greg, you were nodding a lot there as Larry was speaking. So.
Yes, indeed. No, we'll need to make sure that DAS system, or actually I shouldn't even say a DAS system, that you have the resources in place so that you can allocate that service, so you can provide the quality service that's needed for that type of video surveillance. Given that it is one of the most important services you might deliver on that infrastructure, you're going to need to have a smart asset, a smart in-building solution that can make sure that those types of services will certainly always be available, so that when my son decides to use his iPad and watch that movie, that type of bandwidth capacity drain on the network doesn't end up creating problems for the services that that would be critical to your business.